Welcome to the Atlantic Front. I am TheJakeman. We have so much to get to today, and I am so excited to talk to you about it. So let's get right to it. Folks, we have an Arctic blast that is coming down into the United States. It's really going to blanket the entire country, and you're going to see a tremendous amount of cold, frigid air that just made a almost bomb-like down into the United States. And you can see that right here, represented having a 50% chance of the temperature being below normal. And that is something that I really want you to understand, because that is if any precipitation comes down, you are really going to see wintry precipitation. I know that you've probably been watching your local news, your media, everything is on left and right. We're going to try to bring some clarity for you guys. So let's go ahead and try to bring some clarity. As you can see, even down in Florida, you have a 40% chance of being below. All the way down, you can see how this wraps around all the way into this. And that's the 6 to 10 day window of the temperature anomalies going forward. So before we get to that, let's take a look at what's live out there currently. Right now, we are getting a pretty good indicator of humidity that's in the air. We already have a system that's moving through. You see that there is a area mass that's moving up into the northern front of the Atlantic front. So you're seeing rain and snow light down into the upstate of New York, into Pennsylvania, just moved off of Cleveland and all that stuff. So you're seeing some lake effect and all that. Primarily, you're seeing good setup, but what you're also seeing is that representation of that really cold air. We'll deep dive into what that really looks like as well. This did have a signal earlier back in, I'd say about 4 or 5 days ago, and honestly, when I woke up this morning and I looked outside, I said, I don't understand how it's not snowing. But when you got much cold air and then that precipitation, that bomb comes up, that large of precipitation. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because this same setup, and you can see how this is down here in this zone here. All right, all this run there, that rain and all this stuff. This is not the system that's going to come in Tuesday and Wednesday, but what it is, it's going to show up out in here. This is where it's going to show. But you're seeing how it moves, same scenarios. This in mind while we're talking about this Arctic blast. It comes all of this area here. You can see up. You can see how it is. That cold air is going to start moving. The drier air is already coming down, setting up. So is that going to be the indicator of what's going to push this storm? Is it the indicator that's going to end up pushing it away? Is it going to dry it out? Is it going to slide underneath each other, therefore making some more cold air top with some warm air below, or maybe vice versa? It's all these different things that are so very much fascinating with all this. So we are going to get right into all of this. So I am extremely excited, and we are ready. Plus, we've got some football games too. The current, the game going to be in Kansas City. So they are looking for lows. So temperature. That's something that we'll talk about at length. So currently, and then also about 5 o'clock, right as the game starts, right around about 23 degrees for your Kansas City area there. So there's where all of that is right there. We also have a football game, and that football game is the Kansas City Chiefs going against the Houston Texans. We're not going to have any precipitation for this game. So if you are a gambling person, then honestly, this is some good news. You're probably going to see some offense here. Can Patrick Mahomes continue forward towards a three-peat and the Kansas City Chiefs? But currently, we're not going to see any of the snow, so that is extremely good news. So a little bit more different, a little more to Philly area here. What we're looking at is remember going back to that precipitation zone. Well, that precipitation is also looking at a different type of a setup here. So if you think about this, you now have Philadelphia, and with that cold temperature, with that here, so we're going to move forward. So we're going to go as far out as we can here. It's 4:30. You start seeing this up here, pretty out here. You start seeing how it's going to come forward. So you already see rain and snow And that rain and snow looks like it's coming towards it. Is looking for a very cold evening. Philadelphia area is going to be, I think they said, let's see here. So it's 43. So we're just going to move just a smidge. Let's get out to 8 o'clock here. So right around 8 o'clock Philadelphia game. So they're saying some snow that's coming in here. So I don't know if the temperature is going to hold up. We'll see how that goes through. 4:30, it's already looking like it's something's coming through here. Calling for snow. They are calling for some bitterly cold conditions for you. That is going on. Without further ado, now that we have our NFL updates, now let's get into what's coming next week. Let's have some fun with the models. Let's dive right in to the GFS. You guys have probably seen on social media and or your local news something to the effect of there is something coming. But before we get into the fact that something is coming, let's take a look at all of the models. GFS 6-hour average. The precipitation rate of this whole thing here, and this is the current scenario that we're looking at here, the current model, or I should say the most recent model run, and this is the right at 1 p.m. today zone. So we did get some rain throughout the zone, throughout the area. So further to the fact that we were talking about how that the amount of snow was coming in, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if some of this snow over here makes it into that Kansas City game. Some flurries, maybe something like this. It's not coming up on the radar and or the forward. Take a look at that a little bit as it moves forward here. The 6-hour, we're just going to show you a couple of interesting things on this run with the GFS. Now, we're going to deep dive this, folks, so settle in. So the GFS runs, and this is right at 7 p.m. tonight. So you can see that rain starts to move out. And then the mountains, the apps start to get a bit more of this. This is a pretty normal pattern, the way that the mountains end up getting a lot of this. So it's showing a lot of the precipitation and the energy that's in the air really up high too. So they're going to get a lot of snow. So you're going to see a recurring theme within West Virginia and into the Carolinas and the most eastern part of Tennessee and the western Carolinas. You can see the setup is already happening here, folks. Look at this line that is pushing as far down, and it really is amazing already. And that is just 1 o'clock today, so just 40 minutes ago. So as we move over one more time, we start to see a little bit more of this low. It's an interesting one, but I'm starting to feed off of this low that just left us. But look at the amount of snow that comes around here like this. So anything that's this Arctic air is really starting to fall. You're seeing that the GFS is starting. This is already in almost the south, probably not the southernmost, but right in the middle of Texas into Louisiana, all the way up deep south. We're already into Sunday-ish around 7 a.m. So we're going to do another run here. So the snow is starting to set up already for a pretty nice little nor'easter. So the interesting thing about how this much air, when it meets anything, all the way up the eastern seaboard, you're starting to see some effects. Sunday, we're going to get to Sunday here, and I'll do another video talking about the other NFL games as well. But we got to there's just too much energy. There's too much to talk about. So that's Sunday. See it moving up, right up through the eastern seaboard. Jersey's getting a lot of snow all the way into Maryland and eastern Virginia, all the way up. So right all the way up into the New England area. So you're seeing a good amount of snow. Again, this is the GFS. It's showing warmer trends. So we were waiting as a weather population to see the GFS start to wake up. It does seem to be indicating that it is cooler. It is getting cooler. So that is, you're seeing where the Canadian and the Euro matching all of that. So, or coming together. Now you have we're getting into the zone of where the Arctic just really start to dip down into the deep south. Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, and Mississippi, and Louisiana is now in the place where you're not going to see anything over literally about 35 degrees in the deep south. I'll say again, the deep south is not going to get over 35 degrees for the next 36 hours, maybe even 48. That is an event, folks, unto itself. Just take all the precipitation and move it out of there. We are not equipped in the South to deal with that, but it's a lot of fun to watch. And there's going to be some people that are going to see some wintry precip. I mean, literally, the GFS just woke up and said there was a nor'easter that's happened because of this low that came through. So it's very, very interesting. Then the thing we start going into Monday, and when I've seen again the story here is the Arctic air, entire lower lake minus southern Texas. So here we go. Now notice that run. We're starting to see this little guy here. This little guy here is starting to be where we're going to start seeing some fun here. Monday at around 1 p.m. This is Tuesday at 7 p.m. So we have, let's see, Monday at 1 p.m. and then we go with hours. So the GFS jumps, and here we go. Tuesday now at 1 a.m. Tuesday now at 7 a.m. And now we're starting to get some more model runs. But look at what GFS is now saying. Up until this point, it was really saying that this thing was going to stay super south, and it's starting to get on board with more of a northwesterly type. But there is some agreement in where the GFS has most indicative is this cold air is so dry. That's why the GFS has been pressing a lot of this moisture. We're going to now Wednesday at the GFS is now yes. So we got the Wednesday, so it's basically Tuesday into Wednesday, and this is where the GFS has. So it has it low, okay, very, very low. So we're going to show you on the map look like kind of in a more representative way. But see, that's where it comes in. They're saying the GFS is now moving it down, so it's again this cold. You can see this cold force of it is you're too dry and we'll take care of you. So maybe an inch or two in the Charlotte area for the GFS. And then you're talking about Columbia maybe getting, Charlotte could end up getting a trace to an inch, and maybe Columbia gets 1 to 2. In the coastal cities, it looks like it's setting up to where it's going to stay even south, maybe even a rain event. GFS is getting warmer again. A lot of these rains. So there's where the coastal zone comes in. That's where the coast says, that's where the GFS is. The coast is going to come in. And then pretty much it just moves on out. There's other things we can talk about as far as the Thursday zone, because the Thursday also has another coastal event, and there's some model guidance that's starting to saying that there's some things that are jumping out after this Tuesday, Wednesday bomb. But let's jump over. That's the GFS. So let's go over to the Euro here. Euro, let's see, now in a place where this is what the Euro said. We're moving forward here, coming with the current system that moved out, so everybody got a lane. The Euro doesn't even have this thing even starting up yet. So it's like, let's wait a second here. So all of this is moving forward. You have here Monday-ish. That's Monday. So we've been liking the Euro because it's been a little bit more dynamic. You can see how far down that line of cold air is moving. So really by Monday, nothing's happened. Now our player is starting to come in with this again, coming in off of the eastern part of Texas, where our maker shows up. A little less energy at the start. It moves up into Texas and settles a bomb to land areas like that. Mississippi coast into Pensacola, into the Florida Alabama line, a tremendous amount at the Big Bend. Then it starts to move into this whole thing. So here we are right here at about Wednesday. All right, so it's already come in. This is 6 hours. It did come in on Eastern Atlantic fronts, coming in right around about some, and it's moving into probably Tuesday, Wednesday morning-ish, like that. So it's like this. And then it settles in for the better part of, we have Tuesday into Wednesday. I'd say the foothills of North Carolina into the Greenville, Spartanburg area, into Columbia, into Charlotte, and then Raleigh. You're still seeing so much energy off the coast. Euro is at least showing an event that probably settles in for the better part of Tuesday night into, I'd say, even into Wednesday afternoon. Then it starts to move its way out. But watch what happens. We're not done yet. And another thing starts to set a coast. And then all of a sudden something comes in right around there. Okay, so the last run of the Euro has a really big icing event coming in on 24th. So that's even Friday. So you in theory could have all of this Arctic air. So any precip that comes down says, we are coming for you. And then you have all of this next event. So you have signal after signal after signal. So this was what was comes in, and then all get anywhere from, I'd say probably the eastern line, the axis snow line of the eastern side, I'm sorry, the western side, the snow axis is probably traced to 1. Then you get into these other different colors. Again, this light still snow, and then it gets into that darker blue. But notice the Euro doesn't have almost any icing event. It's really, no ice, very little sleet. It's either snow or it's, folks, amount of vegetation and the Arctic air meeting. You are seeing a tremendous opportunity for snow in that area. And then another one that pops in right at the end, and we'll have to wait for the next run to see how that works. So that's moving up into the Carolinas, which is another way. So if that Arctic air sticks around like it looks like it is, that could marry into something on that Friday as well. That's what the Euro is saying. Now let's take a look at the Canadian. So the Canadian is already in a place where it's just a whole bunch of fun. This today is that our system that came in that is saying, we're going to get some mountain snow in the Appalachians, and then of course relatively the same, I'd say the same amount of nor'easter energy that settles right off the coast, but then comes in and hits that Arctic air, then PA and all the way up. So the Canadian really agrees with the GFS. So I'd say New England and everything north of Virginia all the way to get some snow over the Monday. Here is the Canadian representation of what our friend looks like here in just off the east coast of Texas and in Louisiana. Same representation that the Euro just did. Louisiana, Mississippi, and Bama and Georgia all getting some start right around Tuesday-ish into the Wednesday area, and then all of us we start getting in the Carolinas some of that leading edge where the snow line actually is from the front. So when a lot of that energy, but that cold air is set up perfectly. See how that cold air is still there? It's perfect for it. So we move it forward, and there it is. We're gonna, like I said, we'll show you some of these tracks on this, but this right here would be an historic storm. It would blanket the southeast, blanket the deep south, blanket most low country, and then even into Tennessee and all the way down into Mississippi, Louisiana, Bama. You're still seeing so much more. So Tuesday, so this is the start of, so the Canada says right around Tuesday night into Wednesday, and then Wednesday gets a bomb Wednesday, and then starts to settle down at the Wednesday night until it starts to move out. Here is where it gets a little bit funky as well too. Again, we're just starting in that Friday zone, and there is some some guidance that's starting to show that Canada says right around about 24th and 25th that there's still energy, but they see a warming trend that moves off into that zone. So there's still some guidance that's moving into that. So, but where everything is. So why is all of this so important to talk about? All right, I say tremendous amount of cold air, saying that we are seeing a cold air like we've never seen before. Okay, so this is that line. So this is circa Tuesday-ish. All right, and that's where let's go ahead and let's see. Here we go. So all of this is just, so this is representative of how much energy is coming down this whole line. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about, but this amount right here, we're going to talk about how all of this energy is going to continue to keep moving down into the deep south. So any kind of precipitation, and when I mean any, I mean any. If you have any precipitation here, it's going to turn into wintry. If you have anything here, it's going to go into something winter. It's going to be something here. It's going to also be in the winter. So where is it going to go? What is it going to do? How is it going to really kind of, is it going to skirt like this? Is it going to skirt like that? We'll talk a lot about that here in a moment. I want to show you all these different types of tracks and why it is so difficult to really get a. We've looked at the tracks. We've now seen what they believe is from the 50 plus models that go into the GFS, the Euro, the Canada, all different pieces. What does that look like? So we have the entire United States here, but I have this down here because what I'm about to show you is from a track perspective, what it's going to look like and where we're at and why it's so difficult to predict. Okay, so immediately we're going to go ahead and put this stuff up here. Okay, so what we have is in the blue, okay, that is that Arctic air that keeps coming down here. All right, and it's coming way down. All right, for the sake of my demonstration, this cold air, this blue line, should be looping all the way down into lower Texas, all down into this zone as well. But just for the sake of showing this, I wanted to show you how this all works. So we have precipitation. We have a low that is moving along the jet stream, okay? What you have here is the compression of dry Arctic air that's shooting straight down from Canada. And it's not lacking any energy. It is not lacking any distance, and it is going to come down. So put that in your brains. We should be legitimately preparing for a massive amount of cold air that comes deep south into Texas, into the Carolinas, into the low country, into Mississippi, Alabama, down in the deep south, and in Tennessee. Everyone's going to get this. All right. So, but where does the precipitation happen? So that's model guidance have just flip-flopped all over the place. The Euro, the GFS, they're all over. The Euro has stayed relatively consistent, while the has stayed very consistent, and the GFS, well, we'll talk about that here in a second. So here's what I have corresponding for you. So we have in the white is the GFS, and that's track really number 1, okay? The GFS has been saying that it's going to be more of a coastal storm, but it's definitely going north. It's very rare. We still have 24 or 48 hours to really this to see. I mean, we could see this in the last 24 hours change in the tracking the model guidance. So this is going to be a bunch of fun, but the cold air is there. So there's the GFS. The GFS keeps it really low, which in this case, if that was the case, if this was going to end up being the way that this was all going to shake down, you would have much more of the precipitation that would stay in this zone. All right. Precipitation would be, because if the low is here, then most of the winter weather represented in pink here would stay relatively south. Okay, this is where I'm at, cold air, and I'm watching the Euro, and I believe that the Euro most likely is where we're going to be, and that's track number 2. So if that's the case, then you have much more of the precipitation that would be more in this zone like this. You'd mix of precipitation in the Carolina. Probably itself would get some in the greater Charlotte area. Obviously Columbia would probably snow line, see a lot of this. So that's what I believe the Euro is. Now what's really fun is thinking about what the Canada. Take a brief moment what the Canada has been doing. It has been saying this is going to be a absolute southern bomb, or a bomb wintry mess. So they're saying that it looks more like this. That's what the Canada looks like. So you're talking probably 4 inches here in the greater Charlotte area. You're getting maybe 4 or 5 inches in here. And then as you go further south, you get more in the 6 zones and the 6 zones. And then the coast out here gets hammered with anywhere from 6 to 8. You're talking about a large storm Canada was to come in. Now what's fun of Canada is that it hasn't really been saying too much. It hasn't been giving a lot of indication that it's going to change its mind. It's a lot of fun to watch the Canada. But I wanted to show you what this looks like from a standpoint of where that Arctic air and that movement of the precipitation that moves together. And currently the guidance are just off anywhere from maybe to 125 miles. That's how big this change is in the direction of this storm could end up ding the amount of wintry we do get. I want to show you the other thing involved in this, and that the correspondence between how I wrote the model and what all it is. Again, we still have the exact same things, a little bit more difficult, all the same, but here's our storm maker. All right, that's where we are. Here's our GFS, our Euro, and a Canada, the cold air. And believe me, folks, I don't need to do any here. You can see the cold air. into Minnesota and into Wisconsin, and -2 in Michigan, 0 out in Colorado. You're talking about a tremendous amount of air that comes down. Look how south this comes down here. 23 in Charlotte, 22 in the deep south in Mississippi and Louisiana, down here Mississippi and Georgia and Louisiana, so in Bama as well. You're seeing all of this stuff. All cold, desperately cold air is going to touch something. The only thing that gets a little bit weird side of things is if it does take the more of the GFS route than this dry air, which is what's been saying, is that it's going to keep a lot of that energy suppressed. We're seeing, if you've looked at the internet, and I probably have, is you've seen the word suppression, and that's what the GFS is saying is that a lot of the moisture is being suppressed by dry air. Now you do have another ability for the cold air can't stay in just a bubble, all right? Even though there is going to be almost like this rotation of warmer air. So warmer air high, aloft, and some down at the bottom. Again, you get that freezing rain mix, which you'll see. And I think probably from a standpoint of where this red line is, that could be that line of precipitation, even though that's the Canada line. But so the reason why I said that track 3 could be the most moisture is that everything around here, up in the top here, should have a lot more moisture, but it stays south where it can kind of feed a little bit off of this and not be totally affected by that dry air. That is what the tracks look like. That's why it's fun. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are preparing for this. This is a forecast, but that there is something coming your way if you are on the Atlantic front and or in the south. So lots of fun to come.